Hey friends, how's it going? In this video, I'm going to recap from 2022 titled Matriarch 2. Before we get to the storyline, I'd like to wish everyone happy and great day. Without further ado, let's get straight to the storyline. The movie opens. Laura is a hard-working middle-aged woman who lives a lonely life in a big city. Her demanding job in an advertising agency, combined with her own stringent views on dating, has left her with few friends. She has a friendly relationship with her boss, Maxine, but it appears that this relationship is more on the boss's side than Laura's. Rather than going out for drinks or social interactions, the protagonist prefers to spend time alone in her apartment, accompanied only by copious amounts of alcohol and cocaine. Laura appears to have tried her luck with romance, but her lifestyle also gets in the way. One night she spends time with an ex-lover, and when she asks the woman to move in with her, the latter expresses her inability to keep up with Laura's drug addiction all of the time. Laura spirals even further after the woman leaves, and she ends up drinking and snorting cocaine all night. The next morning she faces the terrible result of the night. Her body succumbs to the overdose, and Laura faints and falls to the ground. She sees a black liquid flowing towards her and into her mouth in what appear to be hallucinatory visions, and then two hands emerge from the darkness and reach out to her. Laura survives the overdose and returns to work the next day, despite the fact that it could have killed her. Maxine, who was aware of her colleague's cocaine addiction, now intervenes to assist her, but Laura becomes enraged and quits her job, as well as rejecting Maxine's assistance. Laura's actions were motivated by more than just her drug addiction. She had just received a phone call from her estranged mother. Laura decides to visit her mother and hometown after 20 years, due to contact from her mother, for the first time in 20 years, and her own difficult life situation. Who was Laura's real mother? What had happened to her father? Laura returns to her hometown of Moorlinge Greenton, a quaint English village in the English countryside. When she returns to her old house, she notices that it has changed significantly, but she is surprised to see that her mother, Celia, does not appear as old as she should. Laura chooses to believe that her mother must have had numerous surgeries to maintain her youth, and she is initially judgmental about it. This mother-daughter relationship is not typical, and it is quickly revealed that Laura's decision to avoid contact with her family for 20 years was influenced by Celia. Although it is never explicitly stated, Celia was essentially a mother who mistreated Laura and yelled at her every chance she got. Celia now claims that she has never physically hurt her child and has only used verbal abuse on her, and Laura is furious at her mother's attempt to make her actions appear less cruel. The other villagers are also not very welcoming of Laura, and while nothing is explicitly stated, it appears that many conservative-minded villagers dislike Laura because of her romantic relationship with another girl her age, Abby. Laura now meets Abby, who is still very disappointed and hurt by the fact that Laura simply vanished and left for the city 20 years ago, without telling Abby anything. As Matriarch progresses into its more absurd parts, the strangeness of the village and the few characters seen begin to emerge. An elderly couple makes incessant love to each other while crammed inside a car and can't seem to stop even though they want to. Abby appears to be following Laura around and reporting her movements to someone via her phone. The strangest things happen inside Laura's house, where Celia regularly mixes sedatives into the water or jam she gives Laura. Laura's mother drags her out of her room and the house on the first night, while she is in a deep slumber caused by the sedative, and pulls her towards the garden, but Laura wakes up before Celia can take her there, and she manages to flee the scene. Laura is wide awake when she discovers herself alone on their lawn, and suspects she has sleepwalked. Laura also discovers her mother's personal diary while sorting through her mother's belongings, and from it she learns that her mother has a very colorful life of getting intimate with all the men in the village, and she even rates her experiences with them. While the daughter initially keeps this to herself, making a cheeky assumption about her mother's sexuality, she does use it to try to gain moral superiority over Celia when the two argue about something. Celia is not pleased, and she orders Laura to leave the house, but she is actually using this as a ruse to conceal something physical happening to her. Laura had noticed a black fluid coming out of her nose and ear in place of blood ever since her drug overdose-induced blackout, and she also noticed this same black ink-like liquid when she menstruated. Celia, it turns out, has been getting this same black liquid, replacing all of her blood and bodily fluids, and when she appears to cause a commotion over Laura reading her personal diary, Celia also has this liquid coming out of her nose, which she tries to hide from her daughter. Some of the villagers are also shown to secrete a similar black liquid, proving that the first time Laura saw the liquid during her overdose was not a hallucination, but a true occurrence. Things are gradually revealed as the film progresses toward the climax, and the entire story becomes clear. Laura thought her father committed suicide before she was born, by drowning himself in a swampy lake behind their house. In reality, the man was a practitioner of black magic and other secretive arts. After his marriage with Celia, the wife wanted a child of their own, but the couple was not able to conceive, and so, after years of trying, the father decided to sacrifice himself in order to get a child. Using all his black magic knowledge and skills, he walked into the swampy pond. This is actually the scene that Matriarch begins with, and gets a demonic figure of a six-breasted matriarch to come down and live in the village. This demon had then given birth to Laura through Celia, for the latter to rear as her own. But Celia did not enjoy this shared motherhood, and it seems that she was harsh on her child because of this. As Celia was the mother to her child, the demonic matriarch gave the woman certain powers, one of which was that black liquid that she secreted from her body, and this liquid was a rich source of virility and youth. After Laura had left the village, Celia started to make use of this liquid that would come to her, most possibly once every month, like a menstrual cycle, by selling it to the villagers in exchange for money and influence. By now, 20 years later, all the villagers were tremendously dependent on Celia to share her power with them, and without this liquid, they were actually very old people who would have died otherwise. Laura witnesses all this when she goes to the local church and sees her mother stand on the pedestal, and all the villagers feed on the black liquid from her breasts, after which the villagers immediately indulge in an orgy. The only people who had refused to sell their souls to this dark magic were the village priest, Ken, his wife, and his daughter, who happened to be Laura's lover, Abby. Being the daughter of an otherworldly demon or god, you are free to choose, Laura was expected to possibly carry on this lineage of dark powers and payback for getting her life. But instead, she had created a lifestyle of addiction that had resulted in an overdose. It is now revealed that Laura had actually died during her overdose, but the matriarch had used her powers to revive her to life because Laura had not yet achieved all the greatness she was supposed to achieve. The matriarch now wanted her daughter to return to her, and she made it felt on all ends. While this wish was relayed to Celia by her usual black magic-oriented communication method, and Celia therefore contacted her daughter after 20 long years, Laura herself saw the vision of the two hands calling out to her, which was basically the matriarch calling out to her. Now that Laura knows all this, Celia convinces her to step into the darkness at the back of their garden, where the beastly matriarch lives, so that she keeps the supply of black liquid power intact, and the village, and Celia herself, survives. Abby also helps Celia in her efforts, as the woman convinces Laura to do the same, but things come to a brief halt when the old priest Ken tries to stop this sacrifice. He walks into the garden and confronts Celia with a firm belief that she and her husband had only brought dangerous greed amongst the villagers, but he too learns of a revelation that shakes him. Matriarch ending explained, what finally happens to Laura? Ken used to believe that his wife and daughter were staunchly against the acts of Celia and the villagers, as these actions went against the teachings of God and Christianity. But Abby had actually switched sides a few years earlier. As it turned out, Abby got cancer, much like her mother, but while her mother died, Abby wanted to live and sought help from Celia, who cured her with the dark powers of the matriarch. However, now when the matriarch's powers were fading because Laura had not yet been handed over to her, Abby's cancer was returning as well, and she was now helping Celia only to ensure her own recovery. It was to Celia that Abby was earlier reporting the whereabouts of Laura, making sure that she did not suddenly leave the village. Ken cannot digest all of this, especially when Abby points out to him that these dark powers gave her instant results while his religion and God could not, and the man stabs himself to death. Laura is now left to only the whims of her mother, both her acting mother and the real one, and she is given over to the matriarch, who cradles the woman on her lap. But unlike what was expected, the matriarch lets Laura go, and the woman now quickly turns vengeful against Celia. Despite the latter begging her not to, Laura frees the beastly matriarch and relieves her from the duty of providing for the whole village every month. Now the two women return to the church, where the villagers, who have turned all old and shriveled, beg for the black liquid that would give them youth and keep them alive. However, that well has dried up, and when Celia tries to show her power over the villagers, Laura hits her mother with a shotgun and smashes her skull in, bringing an end to the frenzy of the evil woman. Laura now returns to her house, where she gets rid of her clothes and urinates on the grand piano that her mother used to force her to play when she was a child. While no explanation for this bizarre act and scene is provided, it is probably a sign of ultimate defiance against the mother. Laura then walks into the same swampy pond behind their house and drowns herself. Whether she too would turn into a beastly matriarch and provide for an entire village is not something that the film delves into, and it is best kept that way. And with that, friends, this story comes to an end. Tell us in the comments how you like the explanation. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.